Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be opening the brand new released Tactical Maps Reincarnated for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This is the first product to be released for the D&D 5th edition brand in the year 2019. And I'll be honest, 2018, in my opinion, was not the best year for 5th edition. I think that the 5th edition brand was pretty strong from release in 2014 all the way through until 2017. Last year, though, just a lot of things just didn't really seem to connect with me, and a lot of people I know kind of felt the same way. It was a year where they had a lot of stuff come out. Most years there's only about 3 to 5 items released throughout the entire year. Last year saw 12 products released, 7 of which all came out on the exact same day. And one of the biggest issues was that the cost of a lot of these things was just a little bit too high. Like, I live in Canada, so for example, there were 2 dice sets that were released that would retail Canadian for over $40 a piece. And it was the first year where I didn't purchase everything for 5th edition, even though initially, based off of their previous years, it seemed like it was going to be a very easy goal to collect everything. I will say that they look to be off to a much better start this year. So last year they released in January, they released the tile sets Reincarnated, and they were sort of a mixed quality. So this year in February, the first release are Tactical Maps Reincarnated. If you've watched my Starfinder reviews, you would know that the Starfinder flip mats are some of my favorite products, and I think that they're great for even just sparking your imagination to creating adventures with. And I'm hoping that this is going to be along the same line. So the first thing we'll do is just take a look at the packaging, and even the packaging is really, really nice. Now, there is going to be some glare. I'll try to avoid as much of that as possible, but I actually really like the combination of colors in this particular logo that they have here. So this is their typical, logo that they've used for the character sheets, for the adventure grid, and for the tile sets. And I don't know, there's something about like the gold and brown. It just looks really nice, actually. I like that quite a bit. Let's flip around to the back here. And it says Combat Cartography. Maps are a key element of every Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Whether the map of a continent, country, city, or village, a map's importance in bringing your world to life can't be overstated. The same can be said for encounter maps. Sometimes you need a visual representation of the area your adventurers are in, or perhaps tactical combat is simply the way your group rolls. However you play, we've got you covered. 20 beautifully rendered tactical poster maps are contained herein, perfect for bringing any D&D game to life. This works for the D&D role-playing game, and the retail prices on here are $24.95 US or $33.95 Canadian. So right off the bat, the price is much more reasonable for this than, say, like the sets of dice that they had come out last year, which were $35 US, or around that price. So it was a ridiculous amount anyway. So let's, without further ado, let's open this up and have a look. Oh. Alright, it's kind of hard to do this reaching around a camera, but we should have everything. I don't think I'll need the knife anymore. And I also like the packaging that this comes in, because the instead of it just being like a cover with the maps just sort of tucked inside, this actually acts like a folder, which is really nice. And actually off the bat, I wasn't expecting this, but you have just some information that you might want for using like miniatures in combat. So you've got what's sort of the spaces they take up. So you got tiny, small, medium, large, huge, gargantuan, and you even have them for hexes, although I don't think any of these are going to be hex-based. Creature size and space, which is pretty cool. Area of effects, so area of effects in line of sight. So this is actually some really useful information, and I have to give Wizards of the Coast credit. This is not something that I was expecting to see in here, but it's great information to have. So already, I can't give them enough credit for really, again, coming out of the gates to 2019 really strong with this. So all of these maps are just your regular paper stock. So for anyone wondering if you could use dry erase, wet erase, or any other type of marker on there, the answer is no, unless you're looking to permanently alter the maps. But we'll go through and we'll take a look at each of these sets of maps that we have here. So let's actually just move this for a second. So these are in all likelihood probably reprints of maps from previously released like adventures, modules, and stuff like that for, I would dare say, the 3rd edition and 4th edition brands, but there's nothing wrong with that because the 3rd edition and 4th edition modules had a lot of really fantastic maps in them. So this one looks like a ruined village. Yep. So like I said, we'll take a look at at each of these. So just pick up the camera here. So you got like ruined buildings, and something like this is just so, again, the thing I love about these maps is just looking at them, you can come up with sort of your own ideas for encounters that you would want to run. For example, with the 5th edition starter set, there was an encounter where I want to say it was you went into this ruined village basically, and that's where the green dragon encounter was, and you could almost use this for that, or you could come up with your own types of adventures for that, which I think is really, really fantastic. And just again, these things are so great. I love these maps so much that this is right now, as far as 5th edition goes, even though I'm only looking at the first full map, this is already my favorite accessory for the 5th edition game. Alright, so up next we have an underground lair with some sort of magical MacGuffin in the center, and this one's actually a pretty simple map. The only thing, I have noticed something already, and it's going to be kind of hard to see. I'll see if I can zoom in and get detail on it here, see how well it shows up. But you saw me take the plastic wrap off there, so there's already a small tear. Now, that could just be the way that it was manufactured, but these things aren't necessarily going to be super durable, so just be careful when you're using them and when you're handling them. But other than that, I'm not too concerned about it. But again, like, this is just regular paper stock. It's not going to be like the glossy stuff that you have like with the Starfinder maps. So there's going to be a little bit of difference as far as that goes. So just be careful. Take your time when you're unfolding them. And again, if any of them come like really badly damaged, Wizards of the Coast has had pretty good customer service in the past replacing those. So anyway, up next, and I will point out if I recognize any of these. I don't have a ton of modules from the 3rd edition and 4th edition era. But just one moment here. Alright. There we go. And this one looks like it could almost be some, well, obviously like a dungeon and crypt, but it looks like it's very thematically tied to dragons. Like, you got this dragon statue here, there's a sarcophagus down here which has like a dragon sort of emblazoned on it, or not emblazoned, but carved into the sarcophagus lid. You've got these gemstones here which could be like some sort of, again, elemental gems, and just some other dungeon features here. I like this sort of pit area here full of bloodstained stuff. You have an altar here, and just sort of like a stone, obviously like some sort of Underdark entrance, which is really cool. The other one downside I would probably say is it would be nice if they had labeled these maps. And I'll look inside the folder once we're done, just to see if maybe the folder has a list of the maps. But ooh, okay, this one I like. So this looks like very, very strongly drow related. You have a statue of Lolth there, the Spider Queen, and then you just have some other areas here. So this would be the doorway that goes sort of underneath this stone. This would be basically almost. Oh no, sorry. Here we go. There's the different doorway there. I was thinking there were two different levels to it, but it doesn't quite look like that. Anyway, still really cool. So if you're using drow in your campaign, then this map is going to be probably very, very valuable to you. Alright, okay. Next one up, this one looks really, really cool actually. Kind of morbid, but really cool nonetheless. So, this probably had something to do with so with 4th edition there was a campaign arc that revolved around Orcus, and I'm just going to zoom in here on the floor a bit, because these are all like undead, it looks like. I could be wrong, but these look like, you know, actual creatures, or if nothing else, it's like a huge collection of just dead bodies that just make up this floor, which is pretty cool. And then you've got sort of like a throne area here, and this big statue of Orcus in the back with a treasure chest, which is pretty cool. Set of stairs leading in, and then you just have these platforms that sort of go along the edge. So that's, again, really, really cool. And if any of you watching recognize these maps, then please let me know. Like I said, I didn't collect a lot of the modules for the previous editions, so I don't recognize any of these maps yet. But alright, and here we have actually two different maps. I don't know if they're connected or not, but on this side you have this large crystal with like magic circle around it, and just 4 different ways to get to it, as you can see here. And then you have an above ground sort of scene here with a statue of some sort of creature, and then just an open area, stone pillars, or stone, I don't know if they're like little plateaus or platforms, but just in a forested area. So this is in some sort of clearing, you know, bones and stuff there. So again, it's just another really, really cool looking map, and I almost wonder if they're all from the same sort of product line. Alright, fold this up. Oh. Alright, now this one looks very much like it was from 3rd edition, because the 3rd edition kind of had this particular like style to their maps. Alright. Oh, there we go. And I can't be 100% sure, but I feel like this was from the Red Hand of Doom adventure. I could be wrong, but this map actually does look familiar. I haven't seen it in quite some time. This is just basically like a farmstead, or just like the outskirts of a village where you got like different farms set up. So you got like, you know, the crops here, there, and then you just have like the homes, little buildings there, forested area, or just not forested, but a few trees, and then you got, you know, like this road, this path. So again, that looks really familiar. It may not be from Red Hand of Doom, but it does look very, very familiar as far as that goes. And then this side, oh, you know what? I don't think it's Red Hand of Doom. I think that's from the 4th edition D&D Essentials the adventures that came in the Dungeon Master kit, like the ones against the Iron Circle. I think that's actually where these come from. Come to think of it, because this castle area here, this looks very familiar to that particular adventure. So, which was a two-part adventure actually. So you just have a keep here. You got a couple of watchtowers, a mess hall, basically, and just a little bit of a barracks. So another really cool map. But yeah, so I think those are from the Essentials Dungeon Master Kit adventure. Alright, and the last map from the first pocket. And this one I don't really recognize either, but I would definitely want to use this in a campaign. So, I'm not entirely sure this is a mining... Yeah, this must be a mining facility. Because you can see some mine carts, or not mine carts, but like wheelbarrows there. And I don't think those are tracks, but they look like platforms, walkways. Then you have this decrepit bridge over top of some sort of river. You can see like the waterfall there, the rocks below. So another really cool location that you can use. And just some buildings there with some ruined tools, stuff like that. And then this side's actually pretty basic. It's just a path through sort of again, a lightly forested area. So you just have like a road here, some rock formations, which would be great for like ambush points, and you also have some gravestones up here as well. And that's pretty much the only feature there. So let's just go ahead and fold this back up. So those were the first set of maps. So bring your folder out, and like I said, I don't think there was no list of like where these things were sourced from, where they like what adventures they came from, which would be kind of nice if they actually would have done that. It'd be interesting to see even just sort of a history of where all these maps were used over the years. Like I said, these are probably all from like 3rd or 4th edition, and since not a lot of the 3rd edition ones came with these fold-out maps, these are probably, a lot of them are actually probably from 4th edition, meaning that they likely had a surplus of them left over, and that's probably why this product came to be. So let's just get right back to it. And this one I think is also from one of the essential starter sets. I could be wrong. Or maybe this is from Red-Handed Doom. It's hard to say. But you have, again, just sort of another village here. So you have... The only problem with this one is that a lot of the buildings are just incomplete. So you'd want most of the action sort of be taking place out in the open here. But you've got a series of buildings. You have like a tavern here. Probably someone's home here. And it looks like another home. Doesn't look like a tavern, maybe like like a town hall sort of thing. You got like the chairs set up, and chairs here for like a council to set up, and this looks like it might be, well, it doesn't, oops, sorry. I almost wanted to say this looked like a temple with like pews and stuff, but I mean it could be, that could be like an altar there, just a really, really low-key one, right? But again, still a pretty cool looking map. And again, if you have like invaders coming in and the main focus is sort of in this roadway here, then it'll make things a lot easier. But you could utilize some of these buildings again for the encounters. Now so these maps are definitely from the Red-Handed Doom. I recognize these ones very, very much. So this is just like a roadway where there's like an ambush that takes place, and I think this is actually one of the first encounters in the entire adventure for that. So we've got just like the roadway here, you got the forest, and just a structure here. So I don't think it's the first encounter, but it's one of the early ones. And then you have one of the very last ones, and this was a shrine to Tiamat. Because you've got like all of like different statues here, but you also have, so this was like a summoning thing basically, and you have the dragon heads, each of the 5 chromatic dragon types. And so that one, this one is definitely from Red Handed Doom. I recognize these ones right off the bat, but still awesome maps nonetheless. Alright, fold these up and move on to, oops, move on to the next one. So this one looks like a red dragon's lair, and I almost want to say, and I don't think it's quite necessarily 100%, I'll actually have to do a comparison if I can dig them up, but this almost looks like the map that came with the colossal red dragon miniature, the one that's about the size of a Thanksgiving turkey. So you got this massive treasure pile here, and then you just have some bits of like magma, and pretty much an open area to encounter this dragon. So that definitely looks like a red dragon's lair, and the other side might be similar. Yep. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the colossal red dragon minis, the maps that came with it, which is kind of interesting. So you got again the treasure pile in the middle, and you just have like the magma here, and skeletal remains, stuff like that. So it may not be. This could be from. This could also potentially be from. I know there was like a 3rd edition. The very first 3rd edition Adventure Path went up against the Red Dragon of Chardalon, and this could be like his lair. But this does look kind of familiar. So I do believe I have seen this map before, but still a really cool maps nonetheless. Whoops, didn't mean to bump the camera there. So let's just get this folded back up if I can without damaging anything. Alright, 3 more double-sided maps to go. So this one's actually pretty basic, don't need to spend a lot of time on this. Just looks like some sort of ice cavern, basically. You have just some crystallized snow there, some frozen over treasure chests and treasure, frozen adventurer. So this would probably be like a white dragon's lair, or part of like a white dragon's lair. Though I don't, again, recognize where the map necessarily came from off the top of my head. And then we just have another map inside of what looks to be inside of either a keep or like, probably not a keep, but this is probably inside of a town or village. And yeah, I almost want to say that this looks like a map that you could use with the adventure Legacy of the Crystal Shard, which was one of the D&D Next preview adventures that was used to sort of bridge the gap between 4th and was used during the playtest. And that was the one that had like the stats for like 3rd edition, 4th edition, and the D&D Next playtest. But this is obviously like a snowy region, and this would be like a town's walls. You have like the main entrance here, and you got like some wagons and some buildings there, so you could use that for an encounter that takes place at a town's gate, which is pretty cool. But I don't think maps actually came with those adventures, so it's probably there's probably something else, but it just looks like it could be perfectly used with that, which is interesting. 2 more double-sided maps to go. Alright. So this one's got some interesting stuff going on. Looks like another mining complex almost, although there's definitely some stuff going on. So here you have some debris. You got shovels, ladders, barrels for supplies. Over here you've got some, I guess they were just like buckets to hold ore in, is what it sort of looks like, but not entirely sure. You got like a pickaxe over that one there. Looks like a small office. Whoop. Setup. Just have a rug, a desk, and some stuff there. Our big old arcane circle. So again, pretty cool. And then this one, again, pretty simple. You just have one major structure here. You get a little bit of debris. Again, this looks like it's probably some sort of mining facility because you have crates full of like ore here. Just a small, again, another small, like probably underground river sort of thing, which is being poured into from somewhere like up through the from the surface. Looks like it's coming down. Some treasure underneath the water there, and a stone bridge. So another really pretty cool looking map. And then we just have one more, and that'll be the whole set that comes with this. So last double-sided map here. This one is definitely an Underdark region. So you just have like fungus patches all over the place. So you can see like, just giant mushrooms here. And, caves here. And then you've got some sort of structure. So this is probably some sort of drow outpost is what it looks like. Which again is pretty cool. Alright, and the last side. Alright, looks like a keep sitting on a moat, basically. A ruined keep, obviously. You've got what looks like just some, doesn't look like a drawbridge so much as it is just like a platform that's set across. And then you just have just sort of a big open area to explore or do stuff in. The wall was breached here, and you just got a path leading up, and that is that. So those are the maps themselves, and I guess all that's left is to sort of give my thoughts of the product overall. Alright, so this was the D&D Tactical Maps Reincarnated, and basically, as the name implies, and as I sort of mentioned a few times, these would be just basically old maps that are being repurposed for the purposes of this product. And overall, I think that this is a pretty decent purchase. These pre-made maps have always been some of my favorite items to have in my RPG collection, just because of the potential of what you can do with them. If you have a little bit of writer's block, or you want maybe some sort of side trek to distract from your ongoing story, you just want something that's sort of a breath of fresh air, then having one of these maps can be a really great and handy thing to have. The Starfinder flip mats are probably, again, my favorite accessories that have been put out for role-playing games in general, and the Tactical Maps Reincarnated is definitely up there. So I think that this is overall a really good product. You're getting 20 maps basically for, if you live in the US, again, it's $24.95, which is not necessarily the worst price in the world. I think that it's actually a pretty solid amount, considering like the number of maps that you're getting. So, other things that I really like about it, I love the folder. I love the fact that it has some game aids, I should say, for just helping you sort of understand how to use these maps if you're not familiar with them. So, for example, a lot of people may be starting their D&D life with 5th edition, and really not a lot has been done with 5th edition and the use of these tactical maps in the past. So having like the spacing and stuff is great. The hex thing is kind of cool, but the fact that none of the maps use hexes does make it feel a little bit wasted because this is cool information to have, but it's not really pertinent to anything that you have in here. Personally, I would have liked to have seen maybe a list of just sources for where these maps came from, but at the same time, a lot of the vinyl maps that you can get, like just the vinyl ones that you use markers on, a lot of them are double-sided to have squares on one side and hexes on the other. So this could be like a gateway product to getting one of those, which is much more customizable. So in that case, having this does make sense. I also like the idea of having the template information on here as well, and including like just little write-ups on things of area of effect and line of sight, so that, again, if you're not used to using these maps in the first place, it's really useful information to have. The actual images on the maps themselves are all, in my opinion, really, really great. I'm actually kind of happy that I didn't recognize very many of them, which means that, you know, these are pretty much almost entirely all new to me, with the exception of maybe like 4 of the 20 maps, which is something that I think is really great. The only real complaint that I have is the fact that the maps themselves are kind of on a thin paper stock. It's not the worst. I mean, it's consistent with what these maps were made of back when they were being used in like 3rd edition and 4th edition, and it's pretty consistent with the quality of paper that's used for some of the maps that exist in things like Curse of Strahd and the map. It's a little bit thinner than the map that came with Tomb of Annihilation, so you do need to be careful when you are handling these maps. That's the one thing that I noticed. Like I said, the very first map that I unfolded already had a little bit of a tear in there, and I don't know if it's necessarily just because they're older maps that have been sitting in a warehouse and they're just being repurposed now, or if it's something to do with just the thinness of the paper. So I will say that as a negative is that the paper quality isn't the greatest, so there is some concern with wear and tear over time. So like I said, if you're careful, you handle your maps very delicately, you know, you don't just sort of unfold them in a hurry, you know, you take your time ahead of time before things get set up, or, you know, you just, you know, make sure that you're not being rough with them. I think you're going to be fine overall. The other sort of negative thing about them is that they're not customizable at all. They're not like a glossy surface that you can do anything with, so if you wanted to modify them with, you know, putting in like your own markers, it's sort of a no-go unless you want it to be permanently changed, which I wouldn't recommend for something like this, because you can always reuse the maps later. You could always get stuff like just like transparent overlays that you could put on top of some of them, maybe, and customize them that way. But these never did try to advertise themselves as customizable maps. So it's not a situation where I'm disappointed. It's just, you know, they're not quite the same thing as the flip mats in terms of what you can do with them. But at the same time, you're getting, you know, 20 maps or 10 double-sided maps for this roughly the same price as like the Pathfinder or Starfinder flip mats. You know, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but overall, I think that this is actually a pretty good product, you know, aside from the fact that you do need to be very careful when you're holding these. The packaging is really nice, the folder is really nice, so, you know, I love the way that this, you know, holds the maps in there. The paper stock could have been a little bit hard, like thicker, could have been a little bit more durable that way. So I do have some concerns about that, but that's really it. Again, just having all of these maps, I think, is going to be a great thing for anyone who's looking to just come up with some ideas for like short adventures on, you know, for their campaigns. I mean, there's enough of them that even look like they're sort of from a mining facility, and then you've got some of the Underdark ones that you could probably do like a pretty decent sized adventure using just the maps available here. So I think overall this is going to be a really good purchase, and it makes me feel a little bit better for 2019 versus the way 2018 was. I think that this is a really solid start to the year, and I'm hoping that the rest of the products, and hopefully fewer products than what came out last year, or at least more spaced out, I hope that they sort of have, you know, the utilitarian use that this does, and I think that hopefully that'll be the way that they go. But Really, really awesome product. I'm really happy to have it, and I do recommend this. I think this is going to be a great addition to anyone's collection. If you are looking to use like miniatures for combat, or even if you just want to have something that your players could look at to let them know the layout of an area. Really, really useful as far as that goes. Anyway, let me know in the comments below if any of you recognized the maps that were shown here in the video today. Let me know where they came from, because I would love to know that. And I'll have to see if I can dig out that Colossal Red Dragons, the maps that came with it, and see if it's the same one, because I think that'd be kind of cool. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments below what you think about these maps in general. I like them, I recommend them, and once again, thank you guys. See you next time. Take care.